Hello dear listeners. Welcome to your channel. This is the summary of the Sabbath School Lesson 11 for the second quarter of the year 2025. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up icon to support our mission of teaching the Bible around the world. The title of this lesson, Ruth and Esther. The memory text is found in the book of Esther chapter 5 verse 2. So it was, when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, that she found favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. At the end of this lesson, you will listen to a song related to the memory verse. Dear listeners, this week's lesson examines the remarkable stories of Ruth and Esther, two faithful women whose lives were used by God in powerful ways. Though they lived in vastly different circumstances, both women are models of courage, faith, and divine purpose. Their stories are more than history. They are prophetic illustrations of God's end-time church, the cosmic struggle between good and evil, and the assurance of deliverance for God's faithful people. In prophecy, of course, a woman is a powerful symbol for God's church, shedding much light on how God regards his people. Let's look at the biblical accounts of these two women, whose life circumstances have been immortalized in the Word of God, and seek to draw whatever lessons we can from their experiences. Ruth and Esther embody two aspects of God's people. Ruth, a Moabite widow, represents the faithful believer redeemed by divine grace, brought into God's covenant family. Esther, a Jewish queen in exile, symbolizes the remnant church, raised up for such a time as this to speak truth and stand for God under crisis. Through these women, God illustrates his love, redemptive purpose, and ultimate victory for his people. Sunday lesson. Famine in the house of bread. Critics of the Christian faith have often pointed to the brutal reality of living in this world as evidence that God does not exist, that he is powerless to intervene when bad things happen, or he doesn't care when we hurt. Many of the stories of the Bible, however, provide abundant evidence that none of these assumptions are correct. True, God is allowing the human race to reap the consequences of rebellion against him. But without violating our free will, he is always present, always working in human history, always moving us toward the ultimate resolution of the problems of sin and suffering. The story of Ruth provides one such example. The book of Ruth opens in tragedy. Famine strikes Bethlehem, ironically known as the house of bread. Naomi loses her husband and sons, and Ruth, her Moabite daughter-in-law, joins her in bitter grief and poverty. This story parallels the spiritual condition of humanity. Like Naomi, we've lost our original inheritance, Eden, and now struggle in a sin-scarred world. The famine of Ruth's day represents the consequences of rebellion and the separation from God. Yet even amid suffering, God's grace is at work. The earth still reveals his creative love despite being marred by sin. In the same way, God remains present in human history, working to restore what has been lost. Monday lesson. Ruth and Boaz. Naomi asked that her name be changed to Mara because of the bitterness that had fallen over her life. Our relationship with our Creator has been irreparably damaged by sin, forcing us into spiritual poverty. Our prospects are dim, and we spend our lives gleaning what we can from the edges of the field, living on the scraps of joy that can still be found in a broken world. But it all changes the moment we make a remarkable discovery: God has not forgotten us. In Ruth chapter 2, a major turning point occurs. Ruth meets Boaz, a man of wealth and integrity who shows her kindness. Naomi's joy explodes when she realizes Boaz is a kinsman redeemer, a relative with the legal right to redeem her family's land and name. Boaz is a powerful symbol of Christ. Just as Boaz chose to redeem Ruth, Jesus became our kinsman redeemer, taking on human flesh to rescue and restore us. He doesn't save us grudgingly, but with great joy and love, offering hope, dignity, and a place in his family to all who were once outsiders. Tuesday lesson. Boaz as Redeemer, the battle for humanity. Boaz falls deeply in love with Ruth and wishes to marry her, but there is a significant barrier. There is a closer relative who also has a claim on the woman and the land. If we consider Boaz to be a type of Christ, this situation may reveal an issue at stake in the great controversy. Christ loves us, but there is a closer relative who also has a claim, Satan. Boaz's desire to redeem Ruth is challenged by a legal complication. Another relative has a closer claim. This mirrors the cosmic controversy between Christ and Satan. Key passages in Job 1, Matthew 4, Jude 1 and Luke 22 show how Satan lays claim to humanity. He challenges God's justice, claims rights over us due to sin, and disputes the loyalty of believers. For example, in Jude, we see a brief reference to a story that was well known in Israel. After Moses had been buried by God, he was later resurrected. Though we are not privy to the details, the text itself, which says that they disputed over the body of Moses, implies that Satan was making some kind of claim on it. Boaz settles the matter at the city gate, a symbol of judgment. This moment prefigures the heavenly judgment in Daniel 7 where Christ asserts his rightful claim over humanity through his sacrificial death. Judgment, far from being a threat, is a process that vindicates God's people and affirms their redemption. Wednesday lesson. Haman and Satan. In the story of Esther, we meet Haman, who is hungry for position and power. He is given a great degree of prominence in the empire, above all the other princes. This is another antagonist, Haman, a proud and power-hungry official who plots genocide against the Jews. Like Satan, Haman cannot tolerate those who remain loyal to God and refuse to bow to false authority. Haman's hatred for Mordecai echoes Satan's rage against God's faithful remnant. Both figures seek total control and demand worship, but when met with resistance, they respond with persecution and threats of death. Revelation 13 expands this parallel with the prophecy of a global power enforcing false worship and targeting those who keep the commandments of God. Esther's story foreshadows this final crisis, showing that faithfulness to God will come under attack, but God will intervene to save his people. The devil has laid claim to this world, but the presence of people who stay loyal to God disproves his claim of complete supremacy. When the Sabbath shall become the special point of controversy throughout Christendom, the persistent refusal of a small minority to yield to the popular demand will make them objects of universal execration. Thursday lesson. For such a time as this. Esther's moment of decision, risking her life to approach the king, reminds us of the call placed on God's end-time people. Like her, we are here for such a time as this, entrusted with the message of hope amid a world heading toward crisis. Though prophecy warns of a coming time of trouble, the story of Esther assures us that God never abandons his people. Her courage, the king's favor, and the Jews' deliverance serve as a metaphor for the final deliverance described in Revelation 12 and 14. Esther discovered she was not alone in facing the persecution being unleashed on her people by Haman. She found favor from the king, and her people were ultimately delivered. Neither are we alone as we enter the final moments of Earth's history. The king is on our side, and God's people will be delivered as well. Esther's intercession before the king mirrors Christ's high priestly role and underscores the importance of prayer, obedience, and boldness. Her courage helped avert disaster. Likewise, the faithful remnant will help call others to salvation during Earth's final moments. Friday lesson. Further reflection. Ellen White's writings, especially Prophets and Kings, pages 605 to 606 warn that in the last days, God's faithful few will be marginalized, ridiculed, and persecuted. Political, religious, and social powers will unite to enforce false worship, targeting those who refuse to abandon God's law. Satan will arouse indignation against the minority who refuse to accept popular customs and traditions. Men of position and reputation will join with the lawless and the vile to take counsel against the people of God. Wealth, genius, education will combine to cover them with contempt. Persecuting rulers, ministers, and church members will conspire against them. With voice and pen, by boasts, threats, and ridicule, they will seek to overthrow their faith. By false representations and angry appeals, men will stir up the passions of the people. But the lesson ends on a note of hope. God will vindicate his truth and his people. Just as Esther's people were saved and Ruth was redeemed, so will the faithful be delivered when the great controversy closes. Dear listeners, as final takeaways, God is working even in the midst of suffering. His plans are often revealed through humble, faithful individuals. Christ is our Redeemer. He is lovingly seeking us despite our poverty and unworthiness. Satan's claims on humanity are false, and they are exposed by God's mercy, grace, and justice. End-time prophecies should inspire courage, not fear, because God promises deliverance. Like Ruth and Esther, God's people today are called to live with purpose, faith, and courage, trusting in His sovereignty and standing firm in the final conflict. This lesson reminds us that God's deliverance is sure. Whether in ancient Persia or our modern world, His faithful people are never alone. God bless you.
So it